Hello, I am Enrique Aledius, and welcome to Aledius Sports Talk Under Review. So, in this show, we will be taking a couple teams and putting them under review and seeing if they are Super Bowl contenders. We're going to start off now with the San Francisco 49ers. So, starting off pretty strong here. I think these guys have proven that they are one hell of a team coming off of Thursday Night Football, basically steamrolling, I think, the Seattle Seahawks. There was a little bit of a fight at the end. Seahawks kind of tried to, I don't mean fight as in like a fight. I mean like Seahawks showed some fight at the end and they kind of crawled their way back in a little bit. Not too much. I mean, they were just down by 8. So they still had a score, but I just think the whole game, it felt like the Seahawks weren't really in it as much as people might have thought. Let's just give it up for Brock Purdy right now. This guy, he's been unbelievable, having just been a rookie QB, second start. Comes into this team. I think a lot of credit goes to Kyle Shanahan. I think the system that Shanahan has given his QBs, they're on their third string, right? Originally, it was Trey Lance, and you go from Trey Lance to Jimmy G. Jimmy G gets hurt, unfortunately. He may come back for the playoffs, so that might be a good sign for them. But I mean, who's going to start, right? Like they have a guy on their hands right now, I think, and this is he's riding that like rookie. That I guess rookie wave you would call it, but he's really riding that hot hand right now, and he's just got so much momentum. The boys love him. Everyone on the team loves Brock Purdy. They're all rallying behind him. I think that's huge. To have the support. I think from what we've seen right now, it's been unbelievable, right? And to think that Brock Purdy, if you had asked anyone in like August or September, can the Niners make a run for it? I think they would say yes, they could, but would you think that it would be because of their, they'll be down to their third string quarterback? I don't think a lot of people would have believed that. So credit to him. Again, credit to Kyle Shanahan. I think that's also a big part of this too. Not to take anything away from Brock Purdy. He's done really well and he has made the plays he needs to, but I think that's a tribute to Kyle Shanahan and also the other coaches there too. The also other offensive coaches and quarterback coaches who've helped, and people Purdy was on the scout team, so people who have helped him along the way deserve a lot of credit as well. I think that's huge for that organization to be able to just show that they can have a third string quarterback come right in. And again, it takes a certain kind of QB to do it. It hasn't worked in other organizations. So it's just all around, I think it's just a really good situation right now for the 49ers. And there are, they're ready to make a run. I mean, you look at like everyone on that team. I think first and foremost, I think you got to touch on as we kind of review the 49ers. I think first has got to go to Christian McCaffrey. I mean, this guy, he's played 8 games for the 49ers, right? And in 8 games, he has 534 rush yards, 4 touchdowns, and 26 rushing first downs. And I think that's a huge stat to point out, in just my opinion. I think the first down stat's huge because that's what helps. Again, possession is huge. I mean, that's just a big part of the game. But if we're talking about the impact that someone like Christian McCaffrey makes on a team, right? And you can just keep the ball away from the offense or from the opposing team. And not only does he keep the ball away from him with his rushing ability and his ability to, really get those first downs, but he also is a really good, he produces a lot of offense in terms of scoring. And he forces teams to really pay attention to him, which then opens up other people, there with the Kittles, the Jeff Wilson. I mean, all these different, weapons that they've got. Debo, when he comes back, there's just different options that they can do when, you have just a really deep roster. And I think that's what the 49ers have, is a deep roster. So, again, even in 8 games, too, from a receiving standpoint, he has 346 yards receiving, 21 receiving first downs. Again, huge that to get those first downs. It just extends drives, gives Brock Purdy a chance to be in it, Jimmy G a chance to be in it. More, more times you can extend that drive, the more times he's, in these plays. It's big. It's big for the 49ers. It's big for Brock Purdy. So and he's even gotten passing yards there too, right? He's got 34 passing yards, and that's just another wrinkle to what they can do with Christian McCaffrey. I think he's probably one of the best acquisitions a team has gotten, right? I think at that trade deadline scenario, I think for him to be able to have come to a team and he is the guy, or one of the guys on that team, and everyone to be on board. I think, like, on the Pat McAfee show, they alluded to this, was like, it's true. Like, he came on the team, and everyone on that team was very much on board with him being a guy, if not the guy, that would lead their offense. And that's just a really unique situation, and just really good acquisition by the Niners. I mean, that's huge for them, and it has been. And I think my only I don't even say concern, but just like something to watch out for is just the health, right? Like, you saw Debo go down, and with the Niners, like, who knows? Like, once I mean, does it come to a point where, like, when they already know the playoff picture, do you sit him, right? Do you not risk any injury? Because everyone knows McCaffrey, injury prone a little bit, or I guess not injury prone. That's a little bit harsh of a term, but, like, he's just had bad luck over the years with injuries, but that's just also the way he plays the game, right? He plays the game in a way where it's not, he's not careful, right? He really gets in there, and he does what Christian McCaffrey does, and that's and you can see, like, when he does it, all that production happens, and it's really awesome for whatever team he's playing for. So, of course, Christian McCaffrey, that's the first thing you'll look at. Like, you need your top players to be your top players, and he definitely has been. So that's a big plus. Then you kind of go down the line, and I think another characteristic of this Niners team that I think in determining whether or not they're contenders is just their depth, right? How do they have weapons, and, like, are they relying on one person all the time? Is it a Cooper Kupp and LA Rams situation where without him, there's basically nobody else, right? I think, but with this team, I don't think that's the case at all. I think they have so much depth, right? When Debo gets back, I think he'll be back in time for the playoffs. When he gets back, he's arguably, like, was the Christian McCaffrey role before Christian McCaffrey came in, and I don't mean he was passing or whatever, but he could do so many different things that, like, he's a dynamic player. And when you got two of those, that's really dangerous. And then you kind of go down the line too, George Kittle, right? I feel like sometimes he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit with how much production McCaffrey gets, and the attention that he gets. Kittle, he hasn't been, except for this past Thursday night game. Prior to this game, I don't think he was targeted, or he didn't really get a whole lot going prior to this game. So with this game, on Thursday night, he comes up with 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, that's nothing to kind of just look over there. He's a big part of that offense too, and that's something, again, you take into consideration when you're looking at this team and kind of judge, right? Like, can they be a Super Bowl contender? Can they win the Super Bowl? You have to really look at, like, that tight end position is huge. You look at the Kelce's, look at Gronk's, right? Tight end is a huge part of a winning team, and you have to have high caliber tight ends and helping out and producing offense, and he definitely is. So you go down the line of you go down the list of depth, and you look at their team, they've got it. So then you also go down the line here, and you got Brandon Ayuk, receiving yards leader for the team. I think that's another weapon, right? These guys just have so many, like, weapons on the roster, and it's hard. Like, it's another one of those things where again, being a Brady fan, like I think if you look back to that 2020 team with the Buccaneers, it was kind of similar in the sense of like, you go down the list of that team and you had Gronk, you had Fournette, you had Rojo, you had Evans, Godwin, AB, like all these people, like it's almost like who do you prioritize, who do you cover, So and I think anytime a team has that, anytime a team has such a like dynamic look to them, and you can really change your team depending on your opponent, and you can use different people here and there, and you can kind of move people around. It gets dangerous for other teams, and I think that's also what championship winning teams can get right. That's how they get that success, is because it gets hard to beat them, and that's, I mean, I know it sounds basic and everything, but it really is something when and also look at the Bills, right? This is a good example, right? You look at the Bills and they have Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, right? Like it's Dawson Knox, like all these people. Now that you got Cole Beasley. So it's like depth is a huge, huge factor here, in my opinion, in determining whether or not these guys can go and whether or not they can be contenders, because, you can only go so far with just a tandem, right? Like, I don't know, if you had even Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, right? Like that was their, I mean, that might be an anomaly because they're just Devontae is so good and Aaron Rodgers is so good, but at some point, if you stop Devontae, or even like this year, if Devontae leaves, there's a little bit of a adjustment period, and they're not as threatening when they lose a big piece of their offense like that. But, now you look at the 49ers, if Ayuk is out for whatever the reason, and Debo's in and Kittle's in and McCaffrey's in, they're so dangerous. If one of those other guys is out, they're still a really dangerous team. So I think that's a really big factor. And, with this past game and the past two games, I definitely want to just touch quickly on Brock Purdy, right? I mean, what can I say that hasn't been said? I think that he has been it's a really great story. And I think that those are great moments for players in his position, right? Like when you have your third string and no one knows who the hell you are. Those are honestly, sometimes those are probably the best situations for a guy like him, or for anyone in that position, when no one knows who you are. They can't really scheme against you. He was on the scout team, so he was getting reps in, and he was, doing what he had to do. He put his head down, worked his ass off, and when he gets the opportunity to play, it's not really new to him, right? Because he was on the scout team. He's doing things. He understands the scheme. He understands what the team in front of him is doing. So, that transition period, and adjustment period is very, very short compared to other rookie quarterbacks, I guess you could say. So yeah, again, so much credit goes to Brock Purdy. I definitely, that one play to that double pump, and then he just throws, I think, to Kittle. That was I think after you see that, you're like, man, is this guy a rookie, or it's unbelievable. I think that was a pretty awesome drawn up play by the Niners, and again, credit to Purdy, credit to Shanahan. I think that speaks to their ability to execute, and regardless of who's under center and the personnel there, they have a really good drawn up plan there, so good on them. But the last thing I definitely got to touch on with the 49ers has got to be their defense, right? I mean, I think this is the biggest, it's the last thing I'll touch on, but it's probably the most important thing I'll touch on. They are the best defense in the league, I think, in my opinion. Maybe they don't rank number one in every single thing, but I just think that they are the best defense in the league. I mean, they rank first in points per game, right? They rank first in opponent first downs per game. I think that's allowing the least amount of first downs is huge, right? That because 3 and out is very costly for other teams, that they're playing against. Can't get a whole lot generated. Again, I watched the Buccaneers game. They got smoked by the Niners defense. Seahawks in this game, in that last game too, right? I mean, they kind of crept back in the end, but they weren't really a threat. So It wasn't like they were neck and neck for the whole way through. But yeah, that defense, right? That defense is just killer. And I believe that, even though we're in a pretty heavy offensive league right now, where you need that offensive production, I still think that defense is a huge part in championship teams. It's like it may be different compared to what 7 to 10 years ago in the league or whatever, but I still think that like we're in a place where if you don't have that solid defense to rely on and to fall back on, yeah, it's going to be hard to win the Super Bowl, especially just like as games become, the fatigue sets in and the grind gets there and the playoffs, you go deeper in the playoffs. There are some games where it's not, you're not scoring high against each other, right? Like teams are not going to be high scoring. It's not going to be a shootout. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's not going to be a shootout every game of the playoffs, right? Even the Bills and the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and all that, like there are going to be close games where your defense needs to make a play and they got to make a stop and they got to come up huge. And I think that right now the Niners defense is the team that if you were to ask anybody, like what team would you trust the defense on, it's got to be the Niners. So my opinion, I think that they are the backbone of this team. I mean, you can look at Brock Purdy for sure, Kyle Shanahan, yeah, for sure. But like, I just think that if this defense was not as good as it was, there are probably a couple games here and there where, probably goes the other way, or at least gives the other team a chance to go the other way, just because I think they, having the ability to really take teams out, or even the other way too, where like the offense may not be, humming pretty quickly in the game. It may take until the third quarter. The fact that the game is probably still like 3-point difference, maybe if that, or still kept at a tie. That's huge, right? That gives the offense confidence to keep rolling and keep moving, and eventually they get it, and they have. So again, I think the defense is a huge part, in my opinion, like probably the main part of their success this entire season. And again, heading into the playoffs and looking forward into making a deep run for it, I think that the Niners defense is, my opinion, the clinching, no pun intended, clinching factor that answers the question of them being under review of are they real contenders? My answer is yes. I 100% believe that the 49ers are real contenders to not only make it to the playoffs and have a deep run, but also win the Super Bowl. It'd be a great story. It'd be a hard road. I'm not discounting what the Chiefs are. I'm not discounting what the Bills are. Not what the Eagles are. I'm not discounting any of those guys. The Vikings too. I'm not discounting any of those guys. But if we're looking at just up and down on this team, my opinion is I think that they are a very solid team. I don't even think that, we've seen Brock Purdy do great things in the past 2 games. I'm kind of waiting for that game where he looks like a rookie, and I think a lot of people have said that. It may happen, right? Like it's inevitable. I mean, it's one of those things where no one just goes on an amazing run forever, but like, it could happen sooner, maybe next game or whatever. But even if he doesn't, even if he struggles, I think Kyle Shanahan has that ability to draw up plays, especially with Christian McCaffrey, Debo, right? To draw up plays where you don't even have to pass the ball that much, right? I don't know which playoff game it was, NFC, whatever, but there was a playoff game where was it Jimmy G that barely threw for anything? There was just so much, those just basically just rushed the whole game. I think it was against the Packers too. Again, those are examples of how this team and the coaching pedigree has the ability to, scheme that way and prepare that way for other teams. So with all things considered, my conclusion on this is that, yes, I do believe that the Niners are a team. They are a contender. They can win the Super Bowl. I don't see any issue with people, placing a bet on them to win the Super Bowl. I think that they have proven this year that their defense is, again, I think the backbone of their success. And from that defense, then has the depth of their roster and their running and receiving core and all that. And then, Brock Purdy leading the way, a great story. And if Jimmy G comes back, they all rally behind him too. And again, to top it off, you got Kyle Shanahan, who's basically at the helm of it all, and along with the other coaching staff, being able to lead the way. So I would be surprised if I don't see them making a deep run at least, and if they don't, like, it should be a good game in the game that they play, and we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, my conclusion on these guys is that they are with, at least in my mind, I am fully confident that they are a contender. They can win the Super Bowl. So for all you 49ers fans out there, hopefully you guys appreciate this video, because I think that you guys, your team, 49ers, can win the Super Bowl. And I think you guys are real contenders.